Now it's time for Girl, Your Soul is Speaking.
And welcome back to On Air with Tony Sweet. I'm Eddie Connor. We're going to be talking about Girl, Your Soul is Speaking. And, of course, I'm in house with
Tony Sweet
and
Wildman Alley.
And we're going to be talking today about, it's a really fun question. Where are you swimming? Are you swimming in the abundant, rich, prosperous, wealthy thoughts? Or are you swimming in negative, cesspool, bad thoughts? And I'm going to lead off with a story whenever I was a little kid. So we grew up pretty poor.
Why are you laughing?
Because it was horrible. And we grew up really poor, and Mom and Dad, I guess, had somehow gotten a surprise check from someplace for like $100. So we loaded up all of us kids in the back seat. There were three of us at the time, me, Bobby, Terry. Doodlebug weren't born yet, so Daddy and Mama took us down to the beach, which was a 4-hour drive. And it was a big thing because you had to put the bologna in the ice chest and all that stuff. So you'd have food to eat on the way. And whenever we got down to the beach, we'd never been, we were all excited. And Mom and Dad went to take a nap, and we had permission to go to the beach because there's a lifeguard there. So we come out of our little Motel 6 or whatever this scary thing was with orange fluorescent carpet. And we came around the corner, and there was this big, giant pool right there in the sand right behind the hotel. So it was like the hotel, or really a motel. And then there was a sand dune. And then off the sand dune was this big pipe. It was about this big around. And it was gushing water into this big pit that was about as big as this whole room. So we were like, we have struck gold. And so we would go to the end of the pipe, and we would dive off of it into this our own private little swimming pool.
It wasn't some sort of sewage or anything, was it?
And we were playing in it for like, we were playing in it for like 30 minutes or something like that. And I was like, I don't know why my eye's itchy.
Oh, my God.
And Bobby's like, I've got a fungus on my pee-pee. And Terry's like, my mouth tastes funny. And so we're playing and we're playing and we're swimming and swimming. And this military dude comes up with his German Shepherd, and he's walking by. And he just stops dead in his tracks. He's like, what are you idiots doing swimming in shit?
Oh,
and we were like, what? And he said, there's a whole bleeping ocean. There's 800 million miles worth of ocean, and you three are swimming in a cesspool.
Oh.
Now, we didn't know because we don't have a sense of smell. We really don't. None of us do. And so we're like, okay, so we're trying to play it off like we knew we were swimming in poo-poo. And as soon as he was out of sight, we looked at each other and we're like, oh, my God. And we ran down to the Atlantic Ocean, and we got as much of it off of us as we could. And then we were stung by jellyfish. It was horrible. And so that leads me to think, how many times do we talk about what we do want? Like we want big, wonderful things. We have really pure desire. We have an idea of the kind of life we want to have. But we go away from the Atlantic Ocean of the abundance and the rich and the wealthy part of it, and we keep going back to the cesspool part of it.
Yeah, but as you said, the abundance part also has things like jellyfish that you have to maneuver around in this and the other as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Observation. It
is a great observation. And in the big grand scheme of things, there's way more clean, or used to be, clean
right.
water to play in the Atlantic, and fewer things
absolutely.
that could affect you negatively. But you're exactly right. And what I've learned is all thought has a duality. For every good thing, there's a bad thing. For every light, there's a dark. For every positive, there's a negative. So you're right.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have balance.
Yes, and Earth is all about that. We come from non-physical, which is the purest, the purest, the purest. And we choose sometimes hard knock lives whenever we come from our soul into a physical human apparatus. And we bang around on the earth plane. Earth is a school where we come back to over and over and over to experience that duality and to experience some of the hard knocks. Because there's not that in non-physical in the traditional sense, the way that we know it to be. And an expectation is a vibration that brings a manifestation. And anytime you go to something you want to be doing, like we just had Ian here, amazing, and we had Lou earlier, some really great actors. And you can just tell, and I'm just going to point out Ian for just a second, you could tell his energy is pure. It's an oceanic consciousness. You can tell that he delves and dives into things that are creative and artistic that feed his heart, mind, and soul, that keep him in an oceanic consciousness place, a prosperous, wealth esteemable place. And very few times, or no time actually while he was in this room, did he ever tiptoe over into cesspool thoughts. And people have a tendency in the cesspool arena, in the negative side of what they want, to be in the negative side of what they want. If they want to be an actor, they're not getting the acting work. So what do they talk about the most in their daily life? Not having the acting work, or the one thing that they did get? They usually talk about the negative. Did you know 70% of the time the human brain, the adult human brain, talks about and thinks about and visualizes its history instead of its future or its present moment? 70% of the time. And the visual that comes with that whenever we speak about it is simply that when you get in your car and you come to work, do you put your car in reverse and try to fly down the 405? Well, who the heck flies down the 405 ever?
I was going to say.
It might move faster, actually. And so we don't travel backwards in life. So why do we keep taking our mind to those cesspool thoughts?
I think because you just can't get out of them, because you're in a vicious circle where you just can't get out of the quagmire of everything that happened, and you can't seem to. It's like that thing that I was talking about. It's like what's happened to you in the past. Like when I was saying, like a friend of mine. Did I mention this last week? A friend of mine whose uncle tried to molest him.
Oh yeah,
and he can't get out of it. And this is years later, and it's like, look, the way I see stuff like that, because stuff like that happened to me, is it made me who I am today, and I love who I am today. So I'm completely out of that, and I'm more focused as to who I am today.
That's perfect. And I love what you're saying, and it goes back to expectation. Expectation is a vibration in the solar plexus that brings a manifestation in your reality. As within, so without. Karen Samuelson has this really great quote: what's on your mind becomes what's in your life. So think the thoughts that you want to see. And he is stuck in the quagmire, as it were. And the reason he's stuck in it is because he keeps looking at the same thing and asking the same questions and telling the same story and trying to get a bigger payoff. Now the story gets bigger, it gets more dramatic, it gets scarier, and now people aren't interested anymore. So this same person might be subconsciously going out and trying to create new kinds of drama to get the same kind of attention, because they're stuck in that habit loop of thought.
Exactly. And then you start and to them, the perspective of the good is the reaction they get from them wallowing in self-pity. It's just the way I see it.
And so, long story short, they think, they believe, they expect that if they tell that story to even a new person, that they're going to vibrate the attention and therefore get the manifestation of being seen and heard. For all the wrong reasons. That is driving backwards through your life and spending almost 90% of your life living in cesspool thoughts. So an expectation is a vibration that brings the manifestation, and it doesn't matter how poor you were growing up. It doesn't matter how unhappy you were. It doesn't matter how happy or unhappy you are right now. If you keep taking your brain, your thoughts, your power, your feelings, your emotions, your attention, wherever attention goes, energy flows. And you can be in the cesspool loop, in the negative loop, and you can think anything general that makes you feel just a touch happier or higher in your thought feeling process from the cesspool loop, and get yourself over to the Atlantic Ocean really, really easy. So the moral of the story is, ask yourself when you're in that negative loop. I love that story. When you're in that negative loop, what is my payoff from this habit of thought that I'm in right now? Is it serving me and moving me into the future I want? Or am I staying stuck in the same place I don't want to be in? And then ask yourself, what can I think or do differently, or what inspired action can I take to feel one breath better this hour than I did last hour? One breath better today than I did yesterday, because that is evolution. That is upward momentum. And so pay attention to where your mind is swimming. And if you're in that negative, downtrodden place, start thinking a little bigger, a little brighter, a little bigger, a little brighter.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that's been Girl, Your Soul is Speaking. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.